Have you ever woken up with a sharp, burning pain in your big toe or maybe felt your joints screaming at you after a big meal? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. That kind of discomfort can stop you in your tracks, make it hard to enjoy a walk with your grandkids, or even keep you from your favorite hobbies like gardening or dancing. For many of us over 60, that pain could be a warning sign of gout, a condition that's more common than you might think as we age. But here's the good news: you have more control over gout than you realize, and it starts with what's on your plate. Welcome to our video, where we're going to talk about 6 foods you should steer clear of to prevent gout and keep your joints feeling as good as they did in your younger years. Gout isn't just a random ache, it's a type of arthritis caused by too much uric acid in your blood, which forms tiny crystals in your joints, leading to inflammation and pain. For seniors, our bodies don't process uric acid as efficiently as they used to, and certain foods can make things worse. By making a few smart choices, you can reduce your risk, ease any existing pain, and get back to living life on your terms. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's dive into the first food you'll want to avoid to protect your joints. First up, let's talk about red meat. Now, I know a juicy steak or a hearty burger can be the star of a family barbecue, and I'm not saying you have to give it up entirely. But red meats like beef, lamb, and pork are high in purines, which are natural compounds that break down into uric acid in your body. When you eat a lot of red meat, especially in big portions, your kidneys have to work overtime to clear out that extra uric acid. For those of us over 60, our kidneys aren't as spry as they used to be, and that uric acid can build up, setting the stage for a gout flare-up. Think about it like this: imagine your body is a bucket, and uric acid is water pouring in. Red meat adds a big splash to that bucket, and if it overflows, those painful crystals start forming in your joints. I remember my friend Tom, who's 67 and loves his weekly steak nights. He started noticing his knees and toes would ache the day after, and his doctor warned him about gout. When Tom cut back to just one small portion of red meat a week and swapped in more chicken or fish, he was amazed at how much better he felt. His joints were less stiff, and he could keep up with his morning walks without wincing. So, what can you do instead? Try leaner proteins like chicken breast, turkey, or even plant-based options like lentils and beans. If you're craving that meaty flavor, go for a small serving of red meat once in a while, but keep it to about 3 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards. Grill up some salmon or whip up a chickpea curry for dinner, and you'll be giving your joints a break while still enjoying delicious meals. The key is moderation, and your body will thank you for it. Now, let's move on to the second food to watch out for: shellfish. I know, shrimp cocktails and lobster rolls are treats many of us love, especially at special occasions or when we're dining out with friends. But shellfish like shrimp, crab, lobster, and mussels are also high in purines, just like red meat. They can spike your uric acid levels and increase your chances of a gout attack. For seniors, this is especially important because our bodies are more sensitive to these purine-heavy foods, and even a single indulgent meal can trigger pain that lingers for days. Let me share a quick story about my neighbor, Linda, who's 72. She went to a seafood buffet for her birthday and couldn't resist the shrimp and crab legs. The next day, her ankle was so swollen and painful she could barely walk. Her doctor explained that the shellfish likely pushed her uric acid levels over the edge, causing a gout flare. Linda was shocked. She didn't even know she was at risk for gout. After that, she started being more careful, choosing fish like cod or tilapia instead of shellfish, and she hasn't had a flare-up since. If you're a seafood lover, you don't have to say goodbye to it forever. Instead, think of shellfish as an occasional treat rather than a regular part of your diet. Opt for low-purine seafood like salmon, trout, or flounder, which are not only kinder to your joints but also packed with omega-3s that can reduce inflammation. For example, a baked salmon fillet with a side of roasted veggies is a fantastic, gout-friendly meal that feels indulgent without the risk. And if you're at a restaurant, don't be afraid to ask for a smaller portion of shrimp or share a seafood platter with a friend to keep things in check. As we wrap up this part, you're already armed with 2 powerful ways to protect your joints from gout: cutting back on red meat and being cautious with shellfish. These small changes can make a big difference in how you feel day to day, letting you move more freely and enjoy the activities you love. Next, we're going to dive into another food that might surprise you, something many of us have in our kitchens right now without realizing it could be trouble for gout. Stick with me, and let's keep exploring how to save your joints and live your best life. So, we've already talked about how cutting back on certain foods can make a world of difference for your joints, and I hope you're feeling empowered to make some small changes. Let's keep going with another food that might be sneaking into your diet more often than you think: sugary drinks. Now, I'm not just talking about sodas like cola or lemon lime fizz, though those are definitely on the list. This also includes sweetened iced teas, energy drinks, and even some of those fruit juices that seem healthy but are loaded with sugar. For those of us over 60, these drinks can be a hidden trigger for gout, and here's why. Sugary drinks, especially those with high fructose corn syrup, can raise your uric acid levels in a way that's almost as sneaky as it is harmful. Fructose, a type of sugar, gets processed in your liver, and during that process, it produces more uric acid as a byproduct. Over time, sipping on these sweet beverages can overload your system, making it harder for your kidneys to keep up. Plus, as we age, our metabolism slows down, and our bodies aren't as good at handling sudden sugar spikes. That extra uric acid can settle in your joints, sparking the kind of pain that makes it tough to climb stairs or even slip on your shoes. I'll never forget my cousin Harold, who's 65 and used to start every morning with a tall glass of sweetened iced tea. He thought it was a harmless habit. After all, it was just tea, right? But after a few months of nagging foot pain, his doctor ran some tests and found his uric acid levels were through the roof. The culprit? That daily dose of sugary tea was quietly pushing him toward gout. When Harold switched to unsweetened herbal teas or plain water with a splash of lemon, he noticed his energy improved, and those aches in his feet started to fade. It was a small swap that made a big difference. So, what's the game plan here? Start by checking the labels on your drinks. If you see high fructose corn syrup or a lot of added sugars, it's time to rethink that choice. Water is your best friend. Try infusing it with fresh fruit like cucumber or berries for a little flavor without the sugar. Herbal teas, like chamomile or peppermint, are another great option, especially in the evening when you want something cozy. If you love juice, go for 100% pure versions with no added sugars, and keep your serving to about 4 ounces, diluted with water if you can. These tweaks are simple but powerful, and they'll help keep your uric acid levels in check while keeping you hydrated and feeling great. Now, let's shift gears to another food that might surprise you: organ meats. I know, this one might not be on your plate every day, but for some of us, dishes like liver and onions or a rich pâté bring back memories of family dinners or special occasions. Organ meats, like liver, kidney, and sweetbreads, are incredibly high in purines, way more than even red meat or shellfish. Eating them can send your uric acid levels soaring, which is a problem when your body's already working harder to process purines as you age. For seniors, even a single serving of organ meats can tip the scales toward a gout flare-up, especially if you're already sensitive to high purine foods. Let me tell you about my friend Margaret, who's 70 and loves her traditional recipes. She used to make liver and onions once a month, thinking it was a nutritious choice because it's packed with iron and vitamins. But after a particularly bad gout attack that left her big toe red and throbbing, her doctor asked about her diet. When Margaret mentioned the liver, her doctor explained that organ meats were like pouring fuel on a gout fire. Margaret was disappointed at first, but she started experimenting with other protein-rich foods, like grilled chicken or tofu, and found ways to recreate that savory flavor she loved without the risk. Now, she's back to hosting her dinner parties, pain-free and full of energy. If organ meats are part of your routine, don't worry, you don't have to feel deprived. Focus on swapping them out for other nutrient-dense foods that won't harm your joints. For example, if you love the iron boost from liver, try incorporating more spinach, lentils, or lean turkey into your meals. These options give you the nutrients you need without overloading your system with purines. If you're at a restaurant or a family gathering where organ meats are served, it's okay to politely pass or take just a tiny taste to enjoy the flavor without going overboard. The goal is to make choices that let you savor your meals while protecting your health. As we wrap up this part, you're now equipped with 2 more ways to keep gout at bay: steering clear of sugary drinks and avoiding organ meats. These changes might feel small, but they add up to big wins for your joints, helping you stay active and comfortable. We've got a couple more foods to cover, including one that's so common you might be eating it every day without realizing its impact on gout. Stick with me, and let's keep exploring how to save your joints and feel your best. We're almost at the finish line, and I'm so glad you're here with me as we wrap up our journey to protect your joints from gout. By now, you've got a solid game plan for dodging some of the biggest food triggers, and I hope you're feeling ready to take charge of your health. Let's keep the momentum going with the 5th food to watch out for: alcohol, especially beer and liquor. I know, for many of us, a glass of wine with dinner or a cold beer on a warm afternoon can feel like a small joy in life. But when it comes to gout, alcohol can be a real troublemaker, and for those of us over 60, it's worth understanding why. Alcohol, particularly beer and hard liquors like whiskey or vodka, can raise your uric acid levels in a couple of sneaky ways. First, it's high in purines, especially beer, which is made from yeast, a purine powerhouse. Second, alcohol dehydrates you, and when your body's low on water, it's harder for your kidneys to flush out uric acid. As we age, our kidneys aren't as efficient, and dehydration hits us harder, making alcohol's impact on gout even more pronounced. Even a single night of overindulgence can lead to a flare-up that leaves your joints aching for days. I remember my old friend George, who's 68 and loved his Friday night beers while watching the game. He started noticing his ankles would swell up the next day, and the pain was so bad he had to skip his weekly golf game. His doctor explained that the beer was likely tipping his uric acid levels over the edge. George didn't want to give up his ritual entirely, so he switched to non-alcoholic beer or sparkling water with a twist of lime for most of his game nights. He still enjoys a small glass of wine now and then, but keeping alcohol to a minimum has kept his joints happier and his golf swing stronger. So, what's the best approach? If you enjoy alcohol, think of it as a special treat rather than a daily habit. Stick to small amounts, maybe a 4-ounce glass of wine a couple of times a week, and avoid beer and liquor when you can. Hydration is key, so for every sip of alcohol, try to drink a glass of water to help your kidneys do their job. If you're at a social event, mocktails are a fantastic way to feel festive without the risk. Blend some cranberry juice with soda water and a slice of orange, and you've got a drink that feels fancy but won't aggravate your joints. These little tweaks let you enjoy life while keeping gout at bay. Now, let's talk about the final food to avoid: processed foods high in sodium, like canned soups, deli meats, and packaged snacks. These might seem harmless, especially when you're grabbing something quick for lunch or a salty treat during a movie night. But for seniors, these foods can spell trouble for gout because of their high sodium content. Too much sodium makes your kidneys hold onto uric acid instead of flushing it out, and it can also lead to dehydration, which we know is a gout trigger. Plus, many processed foods come with added sugars or unhealthy fats, which can make inflammation worse, hitting your joints from multiple angles. Take my neighbor Susan, who's 71 and used to rely on canned soups for easy dinners. She loved the convenience, but she started waking up with stiff, painful knees that made her morning walks a struggle. When she shared her diet with her doctor, he pointed out that the sodium in those soups was likely contributing to her gout flares. Susan switched to homemade soups with fresh veggies and low-sodium broth, and she was amazed at how much better she felt. She even started making big batches on weekends to freeze for the week, so she still had that convenience without